What's up everybody? Derek here with Minute Maintenance. In this video I'm going to show you something I'm very excited about. I'm finally upgrading the suspension on my truck. If this is your first video, it's a 2012 F-150 Raptor Gen 1. This is kind of the first big upgrade I'll say that I've done. And boy has it been a project. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do a Gen 2 rear shock conversion using these brackets from KHC. It's I won't say a difficult job, it's just time consuming, and you'll find out why. But the reason for switching to a Gen 2 shock is because you're going to gain, I think it's around 2 inches of travel. You could absolutely just take your old shocks off, put the new Gen 2 rear shocks on, and be fine. Is it perfect? No. Is it going to be better? For a while, yeah. The reason we go to these brackets is because this is our upper shock mounting point, and this actually raises it about an inch. And because the Gen 2 shocks are longer, that higher mounting point is going to give you more travel, which is kind of the whole point of switching to the Gen 2 shocks besides the larger diameter. If you just throw the Gen 2 shocks on your truck without putting the mounts on, your shock is going to ride in a zone within that shock that it's not necessarily made for. That's going to cause premature wear. It won't operate the way it was supposed to. So why would you spend all that money on the Gen 2 shocks and not do these brackets? These brackets aren't super expensive. It's definitely something I would recommend doing. Well, I hope anyways. We'll see when I'm done. My shocks right now are absolutely shot. And I'll probably show you later how terrible they are. But I'm expecting a huge improvement because these are not blown, for one, and for two, it's going to give me the more travel. It's a bigger shock. Everybody that's done it already and before me said that it is one of the best upgrades you can do to your truck. So there will be a video on the fronts as well, but I'm going to do that one separately. So let's get to it. So obviously the first thing you need to do is jack your truck up, chock it, lift it, put jack stands underneath of it, take your tire off. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this fender support bracket out. It's just going to be a lot easier to work in here with this out of the way. They're 10mm nuts, 10mm bolts. Mine are covered in undercoating, so they're kind of a bear to get out. But there's one here, here, and right there. Next, we're going to actually take the shock off. We got a nut and bolt here, and then another one right there. As you can see, the shock is completely blown. That's all oil and dirt, and yeah, it's pretty bad. So I already took the bottom one off, but the bolt is a 15mm and the nut is an 18mm. And just for a size comparison, obviously the Gen 2 is here and this is the Gen 1. A couple inches longer. The body is definitely bigger on this one, so I'm excited. Okay guys, now that the shock is out, next thing we have to do is cut this bracket off. Before we do that, I'm going to measure from this edge to the face of this and then write it down, just so I have a reference of how far in this should go. So we're gonna keep it as close to the frame support as we can, but without going into the actual frame. So we're just gonna cut along here, and then I'm actually gonna bend it up so I can get to the back side and then cut it over there as well. So I'm gonna start off with my angle grinder with a cutoff disc on it. These things cut the fastest. It's just, I don't know, in my opinion, the best way if you can get in there. May have to use the Sawzall when it gets a little bit harder, but I can't stress this part enough, guys. Safety first. As you can see, I put gloves on, I've got long sleeves, and I'm wearing a face shield, safety glasses. Last thing you want is ruin your eyesight because you're working on your truck. So it's, you know, not cool to not wear safety glasses or whatever you're worried about. Just put on a face shield. There's going to be a lot of crap coming off of here. I don't want it in my not so pretty face. So let's get cutting. One other thing is be kind of mindful of where your sparks are going. I'm on the driver's side of the truck right now, and the fuel tank's right there. So I don't want to be blasting sparks right at that for an extended period of time, because that would be really bad, obviously. If you couldn't tell, I would cut a little bit. I would look to see where I was to make sure I wasn't cutting into anything I shouldn't be. See how far I need to go. So I got 3 sides cut. Now what I'm going to do is use a hammer and a adjustable wrench, and I'm going to actually bend this up out of the way. So just tighten that up a little bit, slip it over. Okay, now that's bent up out of the way. I'm going to cut on this side. So that's as far as I can get with my cutoff wheel. So I'm going to grab my Sawzall and just do the top part. And I like to lubricate my cuts a little bit with some WD-40, JB80, whatever you got. There you go, it's off. Next thing we need to do is clean up these spots where we cut. We're gonna get it as close to this as we possibly can. For that, I'm just gonna use a flap disc on my angle grinder. So like I said, flap disc on my angle grinder. I really like the flap discs over grinding wheels. If you prefer grinding wheels, by all means, go right ahead. These just seem to take off more metal at once, and so it's a little bit quicker. It's also less noisy. I know it's already pretty noisy just grinding, but grinding wheels just scream, and it hurts my ears. My precious little ears. So we're just gonna start cleaning away at this. So as you can see, I pretty much got that part flattened out. So it's the same as this. Obviously the brackets that we cut off are just welded on, and so we're trying to get it back to what it was like before they were welded on. Then we got our bracket, and this is just going to slide over top. So obviously we got to clean up a little bit more metal on here, and I'm actually going to clean up a bunch on here as well. I don't want to take too much metal off of this because obviously this is part of the frame. So a little bit on here, a little bit on here, you'll be good to go. So I'm gonna clean this one up, get started on this. Actually, I might show you a little bit how to clean this one up too. A little tip is the powder coating is great. It's also very thick. So we're gonna have to kind of grind that away, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay guys, as you can see, I got it all smoothed down. So we're gonna take our bracket. Obviously the ears go towards the back. And we're gonna test fit it. And that's already fitting better than the other side. So what I'm kind of doing is I'm putting it on here and I'm looking at the gaps. You can see a little bit of light on all four sides of it. And I'm still tight on the top and the bottom. I've already done a few passes on both sides. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to actually trim up the bracket just a little bit. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lip inside here on all four sides. Like I said, we're still tight on the top and the bottom. So what I'm going to use is a drill with these grinding stones. So I've got a handful of them now. And we're just going to take a bunch of that material away. Obviously, there's probably better tools. If you've got a die grinder, whatever, use that. But this worked for me on the last one. I've already got a drill, so I said to get some bits. Another tool I'd recommend is a Dremel with these. It's called a carbide burr. These things just rip the metal off. I would definitely get a fatter one, but this is all I could find in town this morning, so that's what I'm going to use. But you can see this pile of metal shavings. That's just from doing the bottoms. It's super fast, so you want to make sure you keep it moving. Otherwise, you're going to put like a dent or a divot. You're gonna it takes away so much metal that if you hold it in one spot, it's just gonna make a big dip. So I got done with the bottom. I test fit it. I'm super close, so I thought I'd show you guys how well this does compared to the grinding disc. Not sure if you can tell how much metal that took off, but so what I did was I just got this outer plate kind of flat with this plate, and then I'll use these grinding discs just to kind of smooth it out. So I'm going to do that on this last side and test fit it and go from there. Okay guys, finished cleaning all the edges up on my bracket, and then I worked on this just a little bit more. I would rather take more material out of this than this. Like I said, if these edges, when you order it, you'll see like this center part is a chunk of metal, and then these two are separate chunks of metal, and there's little lips between here and here. Just grind them so that everything's flat. Obviously you can't go into that center part a whole lot, so just get them flat across so there's no lip on all four sides, and then work on this just a little bit. I'm not quite to where I need to be. My measurement from the edge to the bracket was 11/16 inches, and right now I'm at about 9/16, which is plenty close for me. What we're going to do now is clean this all up. You can use alcohol, brake clean, whatever you got laying around. Something that'll dry real quick. Just going to spray it and kind of wipe it down. Then we're going to hit it with some paint. I got some Rust-Oleum Rust Performer. You can use primer, just something to cover the bare metal. So there you go. Like I said, we just want to cover the bare metal to prevent it from rusting real quick. I'm going to let that dry for a little bit. Okay guys, I've let that dry for a while. So like I said, this is just going to go over top. And I measured 11/16 before I pulled it off. And right now it's at about 9/16. So to get that little bit extra, I'm just going to tap it on. And there we go. Next thing we got to do is drill holes. There's one here, one on the bottom, and one on the back side, so that we can bolt it up. For this, I'm just going to run a fairly large pilot hole, and then we'll work our way up. We actually have to take away some of the powder coating on here. I don't know if I mentioned it. I guess I said I would talk about it, but if you've never dealt with powder coating before, it's actually super thick. And so when companies get things powder coated, or when you get stuff powder coated, mounting holes and insides of holes and things like that, your diameter is going to be a lot smaller because that powder coat is such a thick coating. So, you know, if whatever you buy that's got powder coating on it, I would just expect to have to take at least some of the powder coat away to get your bolts to fit, to get your parts to fit, things like that. And then our final size is a 1/2 inch. Once your hole's drilled, you've got a bolt, the washer. You run it through like that, and then another washer with a lock nut. So I'm going to do that to these other two holes, and then we're tightening it up, and I'll see you then. Okay guys, got it all mounted up. As you can see, bolts go this way, nuts are on the inside. One of my nuts was not a nylock, so I put a bunch of red Loctite on there. Yeah, 19 millimeter bolt and nut. Just crank them down as hard as you can. There was no torque spec. KHC really didn't send anything at all, so not a huge deal. All that's left is to mount our shock. The Gen 2s run one shock going forward, I believe anyways. They run one shock going forward in front of the axle, and then the other shock goes behind the axle. So on the driver's side, our decals are actually going to be on the inside. Not a huge deal. You could buy new decals if it bothers you. So that's a little bit too tight. So I'm just going to tap on that a little bit to give you some room. And obviously this is up higher, so our body is kind of in the way. So just get your bolt kind of started. Put your nut up here. Oh, that one's a lot in the way. I'm just going to bend that a bit. Push our nut through, get a finger tight. So mounting these shocks is definitely a little bit tougher than the stock ones. I know, like if you're just replacing your shocks with another Gen 1 shock, you can put a bottle jack in between the leaf spring and the body, well, up on this bed support, and get enough droop out of the axle to get it mounted. But this is a lot longer, which is a good thing because that means our shock will never actually bottom out. So this is the way I'm going to do it. If there's an easier way, please let me know, because even this isn't that easy to do. And I don't even think Antoine is strong enough to be able to compress this shock enough to get it in that bracket. So what I did is I put a jack underneath the bottom. I just kind of ran a pry bar through the lower shock bracket to guide it. And once it's close, use an alignment bar. To get that eyelet up into the mount. Once you get started a little bit, ow. Just tap it through. Turn it on. There you go, guys. All done. The shock bolts are torqued to 66 foot-pounds. And make sure you put your fender support back in. So as you can tell, not a ridiculously hard job, just time consuming. Take your time. You know, grinding stuff to make sure it fits, drilling your holes, measuring stuff just to make sure you get it put back pretty close to how it was before. Like always, I'll put torque specs and tools used in the description below. I wouldn't recommend this unless you've got some, you know, mechanic experience, some metalworking experience. Obviously, you can go buy most of these tools at Harbor Freight. You know, Dremel is just a rotary tool. The corded drill I was using, I just bought before doing this job. I wanted a shallow drill, and one that was corded, just because I get sick of batteries running out all the time. So I picked that up. Drill bits, yeah. Anyways, I'll also put I'll put a link to the bracket in the description. Like I said, it's from KHC Off-Road. They're based on the East Coast, I believe. Yeah, not too bad. I'm really excited to take this out and see how it does. For the shocks, I would recommend buying them used. You can get them rebuilt before you put them on if you want. These only had 10 or 15,000 miles on them, I think, so I just decided to run them and rebuild them in 30,000. Real excited to try this out and see how well it does. Fronts are next. I'll do a different video on those. You can also buy new shocks. Rock Auto sells them, I know. I'm sure other places do as well. You can get the non-live valve like I did, or you can get the live valve version. If you want to run live valve, you have to get a kit from SDI that includes the computer for it, the harnesses, all the sensors. But same bracket. If that's as far as you want to go with your modifications, then, you know, I hear it's an excellent kit. It's kind of adjusts on the fly type thing. You can also tune it just from inside the cab. So pretty great kit. It's a lot of money though. And I am going to upgrade all of my suspension again eventually. A few other things I wanted to do before I went to the next step. So yeah, you can also run live valve shocks without the live valve system. You just buy live valve delete kits. It takes a solenoid off and includes a little plug for the oil passage and everything. So whatever you can find in your area for whatever price range you're looking for is what I would do. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment below. Any comments for me, any tips, obviously, I love that stuff. Love the questions as well. Answer them as quick as I can. Otherwise, yeah, don't be scared to do it. If you got a buddy or, you know, family member who's got a little bit more metalworking experience, I definitely grab them. This would be way easier with another person, that's for sure. But for the most part, hand tools, if you, you know, power tools just for the grinding and stuff, but not too bad at all. So if you're also doing the fronts, watch for that video. Should be up soon. Yeah, have a blessed day, everybody. Thanks for watching.